borders that separates us as Africans. We believe that everyone that is in South Africa has the right to live in South Africa. Obviously, there are limitations, economic limitations, and any other issues that are only limited to citizens. But we should not have that approach as if we do not have a history as a people of South Africa.
Thank you so much. Lawrence, back to the floor.
Thank you. We had a question at the back there, and then we'll come on this side.
Good morning. My name is Anne Sishiwixel. I have a question for the, I'll start with the PA first and then go to the IFP and the ACDP. Okay, so the PA, according to the census from 2022, 3% of the population that is living in South Africa is actually immigrants and people who are migrants. So how is it, logically speaking, that 3% of the population is responsible for the crime that is happening in this country? They're responsible for the hijacked buildings that are happening in this country. Is it not maybe that there is a government that is likely to enforce the laws that are in place instead of maybe scapegoating foreign nationals, being responsible, making sure that I remind you that we're a population of 60 million people. So how is it that 60 million people, that 3%, which is 2.4 million people, are responsible for taking all the jobs in the country? To the ACDP and to the IFP, we so rightfully pointed out that they have three, if two or three, you can correct me if I'm wrong, women premier candidates that are going to be representing Rising Mzansi. And in South Africa, majority of the voters' roll is women. Majority of voters in this country are women. So this is open to the political parties, but specifically to the ACDP and to the IFP. The Choice of Termination and Pregnancy Act is something that we have to hold dear and sacrosanct in this country because it is a human right, according to the Human Rights Organization as well. So how is it that women are meant to vote for the ACDP and the IFP if the Choice of Termination Pregnancy Act is going to be threatened under your political organizations? I know that the IFP had a two-day conference policy meeting in Mbangeni back in December, where they said that they want to actually look at amending the Pregnancy Choice Act, as well as the ACDP, which we know has been very vocal since 1996 about their lack of wanting to.
Okay, thank you so much, Ayanda. I think they've got your question. Mr. Kenny Kunene?
I don't know where you get the 3% from. If we round up our population at 60 million, that would mean that 3% is about 1.8 million. And the minister said in Parliament, South Africa has over 15 million unaccounted for migrants in this country. So there's over 15 million illegal immigrants, according to the Department of Home Affairs. So I don't know where that 3% comes from. Yes. Census. All right, census then did not sense well, because the Minister of Home Affairs, who is dealing with paperwork, who is dealing with all these documents, is saying over 50 million are unaccounted for, which is a nice name, or undocumented, which is a nice word for illegal. So we have got over 20 million illegal immigrants, because that 15 million is only those that are no longer documented from being documented.
Thank you
now
so much.
You also have another 5 million of those who have jumped on the back of the crocodile that the Department of Home Affairs cannot account for. Thank you.
It's the IFP to respond. The IFP and then the SEZs.
Thank you, Mr. Mlambo. Firstly, maybe let us get the narrative. Where does it come from? The fact of us maybe disagreeing with the termination of pregnancy. As the IFP, one of our values is family values. We promote family values. We want kids to grow up in a family where there's a mother and a father. And we know currently in the situation that we are in, that we've got many single parents out there and who are living in that situations. So you get a 14-year-old. A 14-year-old is a person that cannot take a decision on themselves because at that time they are a minor. So how then do you allow it as a government to allow a 14-year-old to go to a clinic, terminate that pregnancy, 4 years down the line, they regret what they have done, because that is what we are dealing with. after 4 years. So we promote family values.
Thank you so much,
our
IFP. Let's give
14-year-old
ACDP a chance. Your time is up, sorry.
The ACDP stands foursquarely, very strongly on biblical principles. And I think the key word in your question is the word choice. Not to force people to do what they don't want to do. You have two sides here. You have people who choose to terminate pregnancy, but there's women who does not choose to terminate their pregnancies. I think one needs to respect the choices that people have to make, but the ACDP does not agree with termination of pregnancies at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Action SA, do you want to have a bite?
Yeah, I want to take a crack at the question on immigration. Action SA is a party that is very strong on the idea of immigration. And I would dare say that our leader was the first person to actually ensure this became a national dialogue. Even those who have strong positions today called him xenophobic when he first raised the issue. But from our point of view, we believe in a rule of law-based position. We like to believe that we occupy the center in this particular debate. To the one side of us are those who call you xenophobic just for talking about illegal immigration, and that's unacceptable. And to the other side are the individuals who want to act like quasi-law enforcement units, raiding businesses, etc., and that's equally unacceptable. It's very important that we do not scapegoat foreigners for the failure of government in South Africa. It is government that has failed to police our borders. It is government that has failed to provide services across the board, and we must make sure that that blame lands exactly where it is. But we do have immigration laws in this country, and those immigration laws are being ignored. And the most fundamental principle we need to get back to is people must come to our country legally, and when here they must obey our laws.
Thank you so much.
That is the basis upon immigration reform.
We have a question at the back over here, and then we'll come back to the front.
Good morning. My name is Renee Bufuri, and my question is to the ANC. Gauteng is the largest economy in the country and also the 6th largest economy on the African continent. Could you please elaborate to say what is it that the ANC has done to grow the economy so much? And could you also elaborate on the special economic zones that the ANC has initiated?
Go ahead.
Thanks so much. Yes, so our strategy in the province is premised on 10 sectors that we've identified as high growth. So they include manufacturing, logistics, financial services, ICT, and others. I won't, because of time, I won't express all of them. But how to support them is through the SEZ, Special Economic Zone. We've identified 1 per developmental corridor. 2 are fully operational, with 1 being in its expansion in the next, or this current financial year. That's the Oartabo SEZ. The Oartabo SEZ supports light manufacturing for export manufacturing. So we take raw material like gold, diamonds, etc., fresh produce, and it's manufactured, added quality, and then it's for the export market. As you know, in Gauteng, the Tshwane SEZ is the automotive manufacturer. Again, we take raw product, a lot of it locally sourced, and manufacture automotives through OEMs for the export market. All of them.
Thank you so much, Ms. Matara. There's a question here.
Question in the front of the year.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Kenny, Ashley here.
So just introduce yourself.
Ashley Ozwelihle from Smith Sugulum. Kenny, just in the last 4 or 3 months, IOL has reported on kidnappings. And I think on average, we've got about 2 or 3 policemen that have been arrested for every kidnapping case. You mentioned the Serbians and you mentioned the Mozambicans. Our police are heavily involved in kidnapping cases. In Johannesburg, Gauteng, to be more specific, cops have become more feared than the criminals because they are worse than the criminals. Should we get to a point where we hold police personally accountable for corruption and where they're implicated in criminal activities? And I'm talking the attachment of their pension funds. Cops are abusing the 48-hour period that they have in terms of the Constitution. They abuse that, and people here have become victims to the very same people they should be protecting them. That's the police. You go to the Johannesburg Magistrates Court. that place is in disarray. It takes about 3 months to finalize a bail application, which is supposed to be an urgent application. What is your plan for these type of institutions? And nobody has touched on the judiciary and the role that government has to play in supporting the judiciary, which is currently failing. Thank you.
During the introductory remarks, I was going to the justice system and I was cut off. I think you've summed it very well. You've answered yourself in terms of holding police accountable. Yes, the foreigners use South Africans, not only police, but other South African criminals. They get them involved in this kidnapping crime. And indeed, police must be held accountable. The biggest problem of policing starts at the top. We have no leadership. We have a country where corruption is normal. It's like when you are in government and you are not corrupt, you are not normal. You are not corrupt, you are not stealing. So we have to change the system. And changing the system means getting the ANC totally out of power, so that we can redo this whole system. And then let me talk to the one of the magistrates. That includes part of the system. The judiciary is highly politicized. The judiciary does not divorce itself from politics. So it is a system that has been created by the African National Congress government. So we have to get rid of it and come up with new systems that will take this country forward.
Thank you, sir. Question at the front?
Question at the front of the A.
Thank you. My name is Shadrach Nkonto from Alexandra. I've got 3 questions, but my first 2 questions is directed to the National Chairperson of Action SA. Though the first one he already elaborated it, but I'd like him to do a double portion on it. Michael, what is Action SA policy on undocumented immigration, since the party is championing the matter? The second question, what is solution of Action A to the drought, since lack of water is the most factor of service delivery in the township, even in the rural areas? My last question is regard to all the panelists that are sitting here. Is there any political party amongst you who serves that is willing to go in marriage after election with the ANC? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So on that last question, we'll give you each 30 seconds. Michael Bomart, you've got 1 second for the first question. Let's go. Minute.
So Action SA's position is very clear. Illegal immigration is illegal. And we need a government that enforces our laws and determines whether people have a right to enter our country. And if you don't have a right to be in our country, you need to be deported back home. That is how every country with the rule of law works. South Africa is no different. On water, we have a crisis in our country. We have a water crisis developing with the failure to manage projects like the Lesotho Highlands Water Project, a failure